Hans Niemann is the top seed in the World Junior Championship, the World Under-20 Championship, that is, taking place in Mexico City right now. It's an over-the-board event. It's a classical chess event. And Niemann started well. He ground out 2 wins. And this is his round 3 game. Now, he's got a tricky opponent. Andy Woodward, also from America. He's only 13 years old. Niemann is 20. He's in his last year of this World Junior. So yeah, Andy Woodward, 13 years old, already an international master. A real talent. So let's see what happened in this game. Niemann playing white. And it looks like it's about to go into a King's Indian. So if black plays d6, for example, then d4 and we've got a King's Indian. So that's what Niemann is going for. But Woodward played e5. So this is a disruptive move. Naturally, this can be taken, and that's what Niemann did. But it leads to quite complicated positions. So at the moment, black is a pawn down. Now, Niemann played d3. Niemann playing very, very quickly. Obviously knows this extremely well. He's a great opening theoretician. He studies very hard away from the board. Bishop d3, if you're interested in this line, I would say that Bishop d3 also has a pretty good reputation. It's not quite as common as d3. And the main line is this. Here we go. And from this position, white has done pretty well. I mean, you can see that white has a lead in development, and there are potential dark square weaknesses here. That has a good reputation for white. But Niemann played d3, which is a bit greedier. This aims just to keep this extra pawn. Black has to attack the centre, otherwise white is just a pawn up for nothing. So that breaks things open, and you can see just for the moment, well, black is ahead in development. Black has castled, the rook is on the open file, or semi-open file, and these pieces are in play. So white is a little bit behind in development, and it might be possible to attack that weakened pawn. Let's have a look. Obviously, this can't be taken because of the pin. And now another pin, bishop g4. This rather reminds me of Sveshnikov positions, actually. Bishop e2 and knight b4. Yeah, this is like a Sveshnikov where this pawn is being attacked. And instead of a bishop on g5 with colours reversed, there's a bishop on g4. Bishop e3, so that makes sure this pawn is defended. And bishop takes knight and pawn takes. So it's really like a Sveshnikov now with these doubled f pawns. Except white is a pawn up. That's the difference. But black does have some compensation because there's some control over this square. That's rather important. But I mean, I would take white every time here. As a former Sveshnikov player, you know, I always liked playing with this clump of centre pawns, particularly when you've got the bishops. The 2 bishops here look tremendous. So I wouldn't be worried about black's slight initiative here. Now, as I mentioned, Niemann is an excellent theoretician. He was making his moves really quickly. I can see the clock times here. He was taking just seconds over these moves, as was Woodward. And Niemann played h4, which is, if you feed this into your computer, excuse me, it will tell you that that's the best move. Or at least the strongest computer programs like h4. And Niemann played it very quickly. One can also just push the knight back. But h4, yeah, that's the theoretically approved move. Well, it makes a lot of sense. White would like to push that pawn forward, bringing this rook into play and possibly getting some attack against the king. And if that pawn is blocked. This is the always the big dilemma. What do you do when your opponent advances the rook pawn? Well, if this is blocked, okay, first of all, let's push the knight back. And then you go f4. Once f5 comes in, you can see how the g6 pawn is a lot weaker once the h7 pawn has moved. So very typical attacking idea using those kingside pawns. Okay, back we go. So h4 played. Logical move and computer approved as well. There is a slight drawback. If we come back to this position, it means if white ever wants to castle, then with the pawn on h4, that's less likely to happen. The position is just a bit more open. So it's an uncompromising move. It's a risky move. Knight d4. So good move from black. The knight occupies that lovely central post and threatens a big check. So rook c1 defense and queen d6. Yeah, queen comes out. Rooks are connected. Looks very harmonious. And I mean, you could say that white might be a pawn up, but black certainly has compensation here because this knight is such a good piece. Black has excellent harmony with its pieces. White's king is in the middle. Not significant at the moment because of these pawns and pieces in front of it. But still, at some moment you have to think, well, where's that king going? It might remain in the middle, but let's see. f4. Okay, things start to open up. I mean, this is a logical move. You want to get this f-pawn going, but you've got to watch out for that king. Rook d8. And this was really the first time in the game that Niemann had his first proper think. And he wanted to keep that knight shut in at the side, so he played b4. The computer likes h5, just pushing on. It's not so keen on b4, but it's certainly not a bad move. It's logical to try and keep this one shut out, and it's also logical that Woodward pushed with c5, trying to bring that knight back into the game. e5, pushing the queen back. And Niemann played b5. It's not bad, but queen a4 is computer approved, with the idea of just giving that pawn and then playing knight e4. And this looks pretty good. Remember, this pawn is pinned because that knight is hanging. And white, I think, is pretty secure in the middle. That means the king is safe. But after c5, Niemann played this and he closed with b5. And this knight hopped back in. The problem is, after queen a4, this knight is actually pretty stable. And with queen e6, this queen started to edge towards the king side. And already the position is very double-edged. Bishop came back. Queen f5. I mean, black has quite a serious initiative now. This is actually rather unpleasant. This pawn is attacked. The knight looks wonderful. And yeah, we have to ask ourselves, where is the king going? And this knight might well hop into the position with knight e6. So the tables have turned a little bit. So knight e4. I have a feeling that Niemann was probably banking on this move, because this knight threatens to come in on one of these squares. But watch what the 13-year-old does. He just ditches the exchange. Good move. A check. And Niemann takes the exchange, but that knight was a dangerous piece. And I can imagine that for black, that must have been pretty good news once that knight disappears. And you can see, well, which pieces are left on the board. All black's pieces look good. I mean, all of them. This knight as well, even the knight on c7. And this pawn is loose. The king, where's the king going? Absolutely not clear. Don't think it'll feel very happy on the king side, not with that pawn there. And the queen is kind of the wrong side of all the pieces. Can't help with defense. Queen c5 and knight takes b5. Knight moves into the game. And Niemann does castle, but considering that the rook was about to take on e5, you kind of understand that the king had to get out. But with this pawn here, it looks very shaky, and the queen a long way from protecting the king. At the moment, that bishop covers these important squares, but let's see. Rook takes e5. Looks nasty. It is nasty. Niemann takes here. So he's looking to simplify. The queen is attacked, the rook is attacked, but queen takes knight. And bishop takes rook. So at the moment, material is even. Well, I say material is even. Queen, rook and bishop each. But black is now a pawn up, and black's pawn's looking very healthy indeed. White's pawn's all isolated. That's not good. Rook e1. So there's a pin here, a little bit of pressure on the rook, but the bishop comes back, and actually that's pretty secure. Well, Niemann played rook e4 here. It might have been wise to simplify and just go for an endgame, or attempt to go for some kind of endgame. Certainly without the rooks, white's king is more secure. Yes, black is a pawn up, but with opposite colour bishops, there are reasonable drawing chances there. But no, rook e4 played by Niemann. Queen f6. Of course, it's still possible to exchange rooks. By the way, if rook takes, then that's an unpleasant endgame. I wouldn't say it's not lost yet. It's unpleasant, but that's another way for white to try and hold a draw in this rook and pawn endgame. That's unpleasant. I think I would probably prefer the opposite colour bishop endgame if I were trying to hold a draw. h5, but Niemann careers on. He wants to get rid of that isolated pawn, which is understandable. That might make his drawing task a bit simpler. Rook g5 check, king f1, and bishop e5. But this is the problem. He's not going to be able to exchange queens now. So black is on the attack with these three pieces, and white's king doesn't have a great deal of protection. Well, one might think, yeah, probably best to keep the queen around the king and try and hold out. But no, this is typical Niemann. He's always pushing. He's always pushing for more. You know, he's trying to get the maximum out of the position. He snatches that pawn in the corner. The problem is b6. Shuts out the queen just for a few moments. And that could be problematic for the king. Queen a8. Trying to get the queen perhaps back at some point to defend. Pawn takes pawn. The rook just nudges back. You can see the queen now connects to some extent with the king side. Bishop h2, but that's a problem. So looking to check here, force the king out, and then there could be checks from this side as well. So that's very dangerous. I love this. You know, Niemann isn't attempting to defend at all. He's just thinking about the attack. This is so typical of his play. You know, he's pushing to the limit. Even if there's a win for black here, you know, it's still putting pressure on your opponent. Black has to find the win here, or else, well, there could be some counterattack. You never know. Rook check, and the queen comes over. So can Woodward find something? A check. And then a very cool move, just king h6. And the king on a dark square, particularly when the queen covers and the rook covers as well, the king looks pretty safe. And now it's going to be black's turn. Bishop c2, shutting the second rank. Queen here attacks the bishop, also covers the c6 square, so there's no check there. Rook here, a check, looking nasty, check here, and that was the final move of the game. Niemann resigned, because if king takes, then queen g3. I think the king got its just desserts there, considering that white's pieces were just way across the other side of the board. No surprise the king is going to suffer. But, you know, Woodward was forced into this. Woodward was forced to find the best attacking moves. On another day, I mean, we know how Hans plays. He pushes to the limit. On another day, his opponent might have cracked. His opponent might not have found the best moves. And he might have got something from this game, but not here. So really impressive performance by 13-year-old Andy Woodward from the United States. Can he win it? My goodness, that would be something. That would be an incredible story. But this is just round 3. There are 11 rounds in total. There's a very long way to go. There's time for Niemann to catch up. There's time for all kinds of things to happen. There are other very strong players in the tournament as well. But anyway, I will keep you posted as to what's going on with these players. If you like the channel, if you want to support the channel, then do check out patreon.com/PowerPlayChess. You'll see the address down there somewhere. And if you want to just throw some money in the hat, we'd appreciate that. Do check out the PayPal donations button as well. Thanks very much.